One of the great problems that you have in looking at the world in a more expansive way is that human life, if you break it down, is basically a download of a perception program. You're born into the world, and your parents who've been through the process you're about to go through and accepted it as real are immediately influencing your perceptions of reality from their perception of normal. And their perception of normal has overwhelmingly come from the perceptual download. In a very, very short time after entering this world, you are now, after what, 3, 4, 5 years at most, sitting at a desk, and an authority figure for the rest of your formative years is telling you what is, what isn't, what's possible, what's not possible, the official version of history, the official version of everything. And then these people go out into the institutions of media, of science, of banking, of corporations, of politics, and they take with them this core perception of normal. And when you do research with an open mind, you realize that this core version of normal that everyone is told to believe in is actually an infinitesimal fraction of possibility and information available. I call it the postage stamp consensus because it's so narrow. So when someone like me comes along and we start talking about something that's way off that postage stamp consensus, the immediate reflex action is that's crazy, that's ridiculous, that's impossible. Which is why another reason I talk for 10 hours is because there's so much backstory before something that sounds crazy, a non-human race that takes a reptilian form, is manipulating human society, actually takes on a logical a sense because of the backstory before you get to the one line that you hear in the media. Right. Or he says lizards run the world. That's as far as it gets. But if you think that according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe, and visible light, which is the only frequency range that we can actually see, is a tiny fraction of the 0.005%. In other words, the almost entirety of existence and the universe as we perceive it is unseen to us. We can't see it. When you talk about shape-shifting people, the understandable reaction from the postage stamp consensus is you can't shift from a solid body to another type of solid body. No, you can't. You can't. Of course you can't. The fact is, there are no solid bodies. This world is not solid. It's like the relationship between a computer and the internet. Take Wi-Fi. If I said to people who didn't know anything about computers that there was a global collective reality in this room, which anyone anywhere in the world that could log into it could access and access this incredible global reality, which we call the internet. Anyone that didn't know about computers would say, "You're mad, that's crazy. Where is it? I can't see it." But because people now know about computers and are au fait with them, when you say, you know, in this room now, you can't see it, but there's a whole collective reality here which anyone can tap into anywhere in the world. People say, "Oh yeah, I know Wi-Fi. Yeah, I know about that." It's a matter of information. Knowledge becomes the means through which we understand that things are possible, which lack of knowledge says they're not possible. So what I'm saying, and indeed now what some mainstream scientists are saying, is that the human body is actually a biological computer, and the brain is a biological computer. And what it's doing is, in effect, doing the same as a technological computer. It's tuning in or decoding the universe, which is actually a quantum computer simulation. And a quantum computer stores its information in the energetic fabric of the computer. So as we're going through our lives, we're actually decoding a waveform information field, think of Wi-Fi, into the reality that we think is outside of us, which only exists visually and in every other sense in the brain. And therefore, when you are thinking of shape-shifting, the body's foundation state is waveform information. So when there is a shift in that information hybrid field from the human to the non-human becoming the dominant one, suddenly the observer is now decoding the other field. And therefore, that appears as a holographic reality. And to the observer, that person has just shifted from a solid body to a solid body, when actually all that's happened is there's been a shift in the energetic field. It puts quite as simply as I can, you are sitting there with a television, with a zapper, and you're on a certain information source, which the television's decoding. You change the channel, now the television is decoding a different information source. Now you're seeing a completely different channel and visual images on the screen. It's very similar to that. And I know it sounds fantastic, except that more and more in the mainstream of science are now coming to the same conclusion.
Now, who are these shapeshifters? Who are they? Anybody we know?
Well, I mean, let's go back to where they actually are in their base form. I didn't come to this conclusion about a reptilian. It's not only reptilian either, but that seems to be the dominant non-human manipulative force. I concluded this after years and years and years of research and information coming to me, not from one source, from multiple sources and from multiple eras. Because, you see, because of this narrow band of information that is communicated through the mainstream media, newspapers, everything, people think that that's basically the limit of the information and evidence that's available. It's a tiny fraction of it. And when you go out into beyond what you normally see as information, it's staggering to see the evidence there is for the most apparently far out things to be true. So what this comes from is an amalgamation of ancient peoples and ancient societies describing phenomena, and then meeting people all over the world who've experienced these non-human entities and never get into the newspapers and the mainstream media to tell their story, who are describing what the ancients described. And then people in the military intelligence community in places like America, where I've spent a long, long time researching, telling you from their insider today now experience that this is how it is. And when you put that massive of different sourced information together, it tells a very clear picture.